Now, while there are multiple ways to try to use Yunjin, we're going to be tackling the most efficient method today, and that's going to be the support sub DPS Yunjin. Now, if you go into her talents in skill selections, she's going to have two main talents that you may want to build around. The first one's going to be her counterattack, Opening Flourish, which just like Beidou is a counterattack, but unlike Beidou, we are going to be scaling off of the defense stat on Yunjin, but also just like Beidou, we are going to have an Ascension talent that makes it work just exactly like that character. If you have perfect time, you can swap into Yunjin, block their attack, and come out with a fully charged counter Opening Flourish, which, as you can see here, talent level 10 is going to be 671% of Yunjin's defense. However, this is going to be the secondary thing we're building around today. The first thing we're going to be trying to max out is her ultimate, the Elemental Burst Cliff Breaker's Banner. This one's going to be able to do a couple things here. It is going to have a damage talent on it as well, but the damage itself, when activated, doesn't scale off of your defense, but we're going to ignore that entirely. What we're looking for here is the second supportive effect here, the Flying Cloud Flag formation. Now, while you have this buff up, your active character's normal attacks are going to be granted increased damage based off of Yunjin's defense. Now, this is how this works, so pay attention, it's very important. While the base damage for this that's being added to your active characters based off of Yunjin's defense stat, it is not based off of Yunjin's damage bonuses, crit rate, or crit damage. It's actually going to be based off of your active character's crit chance, crit damage, and any sort of damage bonus ups they may have, which is a pretty huge deal. This means that we can build Yunjin for primarily defense percent and make sure that we can get the Cliff Breaker's Banner up as often as possible, which is 15-second cooldown, and then we can sort of try to build her for a little crit rate, maybe a little crit damage as well, so she can do a little extra damage with her Opening Flourish attack. There actually is another huge thing that it's going to affect her ultimate, her Elemental Burst Cliff Breaker's Banner, and that's her Ascension talent, Breaking Conventions. Now, this is going to increase the normal attack damage bonus being granted by her Elemental Burst based on the different amount of elemental party members in your team. So if you have 3 different types of elements in your party, you're going to get an extra 7.5% of Yunjin's defense added onto the multiplier here for Cliff Breaker's Banner, which would bring me up to a total like 75% of her defense, which is insane. Don't feel necessarily pressured to fit all 4 different elemental types into your party to max this effect out. A lot of the times you'll be able to fit 2 or 3 super easily in a lot of various team compositions. 2 different of the same element, so you have an element resonance, and then a couple other ones counting Yunjin, and you'll have 3 different elemental team party members for breaking conventions while still having a resonance in your team. As far as artifacts go for Yunjin, she's going to be pretty easy to build. Her by far and away best 4-piece set is going to be the Husk of Opulence Dream set. As a geo support and defense scaling to boot, this basically does everything Yunjin's going to want to do and fits her playstyle to a T. A lot of the time, she's going to be your inactive character sitting in the back line, so you'll be able to get this 4-piece of the stacking geo damage and defense percent very easily. And then, of course, the 2-piece set here is also 30% increased defense. With all 4 stacks from the 4-piece, you're looking at 54% defense and 24% geo damage just for existing and fitting in her natural playstyle and role as a backline support DPS. Now, if you don't have all full 4 pieces of the Opulent Dream set, you haven't been able to find ones that you want for your main set and substats, which we'll get to shortly, there are a couple other ones that you can check out. If you can get 2 pieces of the Husk set, you can match that with 2 pieces of something like the Emblem of a Severed Fate set for energy recharge, because you are going to want to have a little bit of energy recharge on your Yunjin build. Alternatively, the 2-piece of the Archaic Petra set also allows you to have 15% geo damage, so you'll sacrifice a little bit from that 4-piece of the Opulent Dreams to get a little bit of the 15% geo damage, which is basically like a mini not so good version of Opulent Dreams. Instead of 54% defense and 24 geo damage, you'll have 30 defense and 15 geo damage, but you're trying, and the main stats and substats are what matter most for your build for Yunjin anyway. Alternatively, if you happen to have a bunch of Archaic Petra stuff that has a ton of good stats on it that you just aren't using on anyone else, you could go for the full 4-piece here, because this is going to allow you to generate an elemental reaction with crystallization, pick that up on a character, and then boost that character's damage by 35%. It's not nearly as good as the full 4-piece set for Opulent Dreams, but this is also an option for you as well. And if you're absolutely brand new to Genshin Impact, take a look at the good old Defender's Will set. The 2-piece here is going to give you 30% bonus defense, which is quite nice. And if you're absolutely new, you can throw on some of the Lucky Dog set to give you 100 defense while you're starting your journey in Genshin Impact. Now, when I said Yunjin was fairly easy to build, well, she pretty much wants one stat more than any other stat, and that is going to be defense. So when we look at our main stats for artifacts, defense main circlet, defense main goblet, defense main sand. That is by far and away what you're aiming for on this character with this sub-support DPS. Now, when you're looking for substats across the entire artifact set, well, for the Feather and Flower, you're also looking for some defense percent substat there as well. And then after that, energy recharge, crit chance, and crit damage are what you should go for. Now, energy recharge is going to fluctuate for you based on your teammates that you're using. And a lot of that energy recharge, which is a little bit of a spoiler, a lot of that energy recharge is going to be coming from your weapon. So as long as you can get the 60 energy in time for your 15-second cooldown, you'll be fairly good to go. She doesn't require a ton of energy recharge, at most 160-ish, 180 if you're absolutely energy starved in your team. But for most of you, that shouldn't be a problem out there. My current stat spread on this character: 59 crit rate, 107 crit damage, 148 energy recharge, absolutely no damage bonus except for that 4-piece of Opulent Dreams, giving me the 24% geo damage and 2,879 defense. Nothing on here looks super insane, but that's because we've jam-packed so much into defense percent out of combat, which max Opulent Dreams 2,879 defense, because we are here to max out Cliffbreaker's banner first and foremost. And while the stat spread doesn't look like anything special, I've been able to use her with multiple different team combinations, anywhere from Noelle teams to buffing up Eula's auto attack damage, Rosaria, and more. I really love Yunjin for how flexible she really is and the ways that you can use her to make some of your favorite characters in Genshin shine. Now, when it comes to weapons, there's going to be a couple different ones out there for you. Obviously, the first one that I have here is the Deathmatch, because out of all the different polearms in Genshin Impact, the Deathmatch is literally the only one that can buff up your defense. So as you can see, Refinement Rank 1 here, if there's 2 enemies or more around you, you're going to get 16% bonus defense. It also comes with a lot of crit rate on it as well. This is only level 40, gives 20 crit rate. If you max it out at 90, it's 37 crit rate, which allows you to crit with your elemental skill, which gives you a little bit of free damage here or there, which is pretty good. However, if you're energy starved, there are a ton of weapons that you can use on Yunjin. And my favorite one, if you need energy recharge on her, is going to be the Favonius Lance. This is going to give a ton of energy recharge, and it also has the ability to generate additional particles on a critical hit, which might not be the main focus of your Yunjin build, but you can get to 30, 40, 50 crit rate pretty easily in a general build, and that's going to increase not only her own particle generation as well as her own elemental recharge capability, but it's going to help out your team as well and make her even a better battery. This is where I was saying you can get a lot of your energy recharge for your elemental burst just from your weapon. And while there are other energy recharge weapons that you can use, this one is by far the best one for her. You can use other ones like the Prototype Star Glitter, but remember, her elemental burst is going to give her defense scaling to somebody else as extra damage. Your bonus damage on Yunjin, your crit chance, your crit damage, none of that matters for this buffing ability. So we don't need to focus on that when we're looking at stuff like the Prototype Star Glitter or other energy recharge weapons that may come out in the future. So if you're looking for a solid spot to start and you don't want to buy the Battle Pass weapon, the Favonius Lance is right there and probably will never leave your side on Yunjin. Yeah, that's right. I'm looking at you engulfing lightning. You're staying right on Raiden Shogun. We don't really need you over on Yunjin. Now, I know if I don't cover this real quick, I'm going to get questions on it. Staff of Homa, you can use it, is going to be good at boosting up your elemental skill damage, the block counterattack on Yunjin. However, it doesn't really do a whole lot for you outside of that. We're not HP scaling. We don't really care about that. We don't care about HP to attack because the only thing that we do that does use our attack stat on this character is the one-time activation damage when activating her elemental burst. Everything else is going to be defense scaling. So if you want to use the Staff of Homa, you can be my guest. You're just not really gaining a whole ton on this character. You probably could find a better place for it on somebody else. And a lot of the times, getting extra energy recharge so you can get more defense in your stats on your artifacts will make your Yunjin build much better overall. Now, briefly, we'll touch on this real quickly because you can pick her from the Lantern Rite Festival in 3.4 for free, and there's going to be two different constellations I want to talk about here. This one's going to be C2, which is very nice during Cliffbreaker's banner, 15% more normal attack damage for your characters. This is going to do two things, though, and is actually pretty good. It's better than just 15% normal attack damage because we have Yunjin in our party. So this is going to buff up your character, your big damage dealer. 15% more normal attack damage. That's nice. But remember what we talked about when we talked about Cliffbreaker's banner. It scales off of her defense, and then it uses all the damage up properties of your other character that's actively attacking with their normal attack. Well, guess what? That also gets afflicted by the 15% normal attack damage too. So you're buffing up the support ability and also the damage that your character would be doing already. This is a very nice constellation. If you're a Yunjin fan, I'd pick this one up for free from the Lantern Rite Festival. Now C6 as well here, 12% attack speed. I do like this. It also helps out some of the slower characters fully utilize the full amount of damage you can get from Cliffbreaker's banner, because not only does it have a 12-second duration, it has a trigger quota of triggering up to 30 times, which means 30 hits, and yes, hitting multiple enemies with one swing, like a giant laser beam Noel sword. If that hits 5 guys, that's going to take up 5 of these stacks, basically. If you have enough tough time making sure you use all 30 of these stacks on whatever character is your main damage dealer, well, her C6 might help you out there in that small regard. Also, it's just a little bit more fun to attack a tiny bit faster in Genshin Impact. Outside of those two, you have the C1, which gives you a little bit of cooldown reduction on her elemental skill, which can slightly help your particle generation for your party as well. As long as you're good at running the numbers behind your head and counting down exactly when her skill cooldown's coming off so you can swap in, block, and leave again, which might be something you're very good at or very bad at. That's up for you to decide there. And then C4 here is nice. If she triggers a crystallized reaction, she's going to give herself 20% bonus defense for 12 seconds, which is very good because, well, you proc that, you get an extra 20% defense for 12 seconds. And what would you know? Cliffbreaker's banner, 12-second duration, and it's also based off of your defense. So it's going to make your damage bonus from your banner just a little bit better and might be worth picking up if you want to go all in on Yunjin. Good time. Make sure you put your favorite Yunjin teams down below, the ones you've been working on, so we can all look at each other's Yunjin teams and have a good time. But check out the videos coming out in the future. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one.